minasan, welcome back to us playing Our Life, Beginning and Always. We are back continuing our lovely playthrough as we get to know our cove better. We are still in moments of step 1. Obviously for step 1, I am going to go through all the moments, including my DLC moments. And for step 2, we're going to let you guys choose what moments we go through. As long as you guys actually answer. So let's go and do library. I want to do fireflies as the last one, so maybe barbecue and fireflies will be the last two. But let's do library. Every year, the Sunset Bird Memorial Library held a summer reading program. Your moms and Lizzie were big fans of it. Mom and Mommy because they encouraged reading, and Lizzie because she could win prizes. When it came to what you thought of having to read a bunch of books and then going to the library with a competitive Lizzie, you didn't care. It was just something you did every year. You didn't question it much. Lizzie didn't like it when you teased her during the team quiz, but she seemed to like that you were there helping her either way. You and Lizzie went with Shiloh before, and this year you'd brought Cove, too. His dad had been so over the moon about Cove being included that he'd driven all 4 of you. Thank God you drove us here. You had never been to Cove's dad's car before. It seemed a lot shinier than your mom's. After herding the group inside, Mr. Holden gave you all a wide wave with the arm that had a stingray on it. Have fun, kids! Stay inside of the librarians here. I wish I could watch you in action, but your poor old dad has to finish up some work.
I got it.
Though I'm sure I won't get in the way. Heck, I'd probably hold all you kids back. There was poignantly no reply from his son over what was likely meant as only a joke. Cove's dad seemed to deflate a little bit. I'll swing around again when the shindig ends. Yeah, you can go home now. Aw, you don't have to throw me out the door. Your sister, already in full competition mode, cut him off. For once, Cove looked grateful she was there.
Come on!
We have to go find a table, Mr. Holden. You can talk to Cove after when we win. Okay, I'll see you in about an hour. Have fun. Did I say that already? My advanced age is really catching up to me now. Oh, Cove's dad.
Bye.
Bye, Dad. Bye, son. The 4 of you watched him shuffle out of the library, glancing over his shoulder at Cove more than once. Bye, Mr. Holden. Thanks for bringing us. Thanks, Lizzie. I don't know what you're thanking me for. Are you copying Shiloh? Distracted, Cove was already glancing around the gigantic library. I want to go explore. What? I want to go look around and see what's in here.
But
the quiz starts soon. That's why we came. Wide at the signs of conflict, Shiloh's eyes darted between Lizzie and Cove. Then you can do it without me, right? You don't need a bunch of people. Didn't your dad say to stay with the librarians? You shouldn't go somewhere by yourself. Cove leveled an unimpressed stare at both of them, then his eyes met yours. Dot.
hey.
Why are you looking at her? Blue is with us. I'm sticking with Cove. I'm not getting in that argument. Blue, do you want to come with me? Go over to Cove. You walk over to Cove, averting your eyes from Lizzie. I'm sorry, Lizzie! Love beats out the fact that you're a sister. You're a sister and you're kind of being a bratty sister, so I'm a little bit more on Cove's side. You'll probably grow out of this and I'll be closer to you, but at the moment, I'm on Cove's side.
Seriously?
Yes, seriously. Cove looked surprised but happy at the same time. You'd never really thought about exploring the library before. It sounded like a lot more fun than the same old thing. Ugh, fine, let's go, Shiloh. Okay. Her arm folded, your sister stormed off. Shiloh had to race to keep up with her. She cares a lot about that. That's just how Lizzie is. I don't like it. Since you've been here a lot before, we could play hide and seek. Hide and seek, not exploring? Yep, if I'm searching for you and you're searching for me, we'll really have to look at everything. You weren't entirely sure how effective that would be, but couldn't say he was totally wrong. I'll hide first. Decision made, Cove took off towards the back of the library. You'd already agreed to play with him instead, so you covered your face and waited for 10 seconds. When you looked up again, he was nowhere to be seen. You glance over towards the way he went. Cove hadn't had much time to hide, but he was already invisible. The place you decided to check was... Eeny, meeny, miny, moes. Eeny, meeny, miny, moes. Let's go. Near the older kids section, there was a display of a bunch of fancy-looking books. They were old copies of old stories. Leaning over the Hans Christensen Andersen section, hand rested above the glass where the Little Mermaid and Thumbelina books were, you peered into a tiny corner. And there was Cove, seemingly lost in thought. Gotcha! I didn't think you'd find me so fast. Nice one. I'm like a bloodhound. Cove laughed as a smile overtook his face. You kind of are.
Okay.
Your turn now. I'm gonna cover my eyes and count to 10. I promise I won't peek. While Cove had his eyes securely behind the palms of his hands, you went to go hide. Outlaw poster. You hid in a tiny alcove across from a gigantic poster of a woman named Kissing Kate. Waiting for Cove to find you hidden from view, you looked across at her wide smile. Kissing Kate Barlow. She and her bright red gleaming smile, seeming exactly like the kind of outlaw that Lizzie would think was cool. You mulled over the idea of showing your sister this new poster. She hadn't seen it before. But Lizzie wouldn't want to be dragged away from the thing she'd come here to do, and besides, she was probably mad at you for going with Cove. I can't blame her, but at the same time, Lizzie, my friend. You have your friend, I got my friend, we can both hang out with different friends. Suddenly his head appeared directly in front of you. Found you! Whoa, can you teleport or something? No. He glanced over his shoulder to see what you'd been staring at. Cool. I like her lipstick. Yeah? Yeah, like a poisonous fish. He stared at her for a couple seconds longer, then glanced back at you.
All right.
It's my turn again. Start counting so I can go pick a spot. Okay. Cove darted off before you'd even have a chance to fully close your eyes. 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, 10 Mississippi. When the time was up, he was long gone again. There were still a lot of good places to hide, so you figured he was... You figured he was probably near the poster with a gigantic poster of a smirking kid detective. Cove could have hidden in the tiny itty-bitty reading area next to it. Glancing past the poster itself briefly, your brain registered the words, Junie B. Jones, don't call her Beatrice, in big imposing letters. You paused to stare at it for a second, thinking, why would I call her Beatrice if her name is Junie? Shaking your head to clear away the distraction, you tiptoed in to see who was sitting in the comfy chair, and sure enough, it was Cove. But he was so absorbed in the book he was reading that he hadn't even noticed you yet. I don't think most people read while playing hide and seek. Cove glanced up at you in one rough motion. Oh, hi, Blue. I wasn't sure when you'd get here. It took a while. Not that long! It couldn't have been worse, but it could have been better. Let's keep playing. I'm doing good. He put his hands over his eyes, but before you could run off again, a librarian approached the two of you. Ah, kids, I've been looking for you. Cove peeked between his fingers at the stranger. Us? You must be Cove. Your dad told me he was waiting by the entrance. Oh, Cove. Your dad put out a search for us. Cove blinked, mouth opening like he was going to say something, then glanced down at his pink cast. It was a pretty clear giveaway. Sure. Is my sister Lizzie with him? She's taller than us and has orange hair. You're Blue, right? You nodded. Whew, I found both of you at once. That's right, she's with him and the little guy with freckles. Come on, let's go get you reunited so we can close up for the night. Ready to go home, you and Cove followed him to the front where the ragtag group of family members in Shiloh were all waiting.
Hey!
There you are! She was pouting. You could tell from all across the room, and it was only that much more obvious as you got closer. Did you win? We came in second. Hey, gang, I thought you had been with them the whole time, Cove. I'm glad you didn't just go off by yourself, at least. Cove glanced over at you, then back up at his dad.
Yeah.
Me too. A broad smile spread over Mr. Holden's face.
That's...
Even so, next time you should... Cove? Cove? Cove's dad glanced back down, slightly frantic, but Cove, just like always, had snuck off without thinking to say anything. He's leaving! Cove's trying to get the first one to the car! With a sudden burst of speed, Lizzie darted for the exit, still in a victor-to-be mode, even something like a race to ride in the front seat. There was nothing else for the three of you to do except head after them, pretending the librarians hadn't noticed all the commotion. Though Lizzie had been victorious in claiming a window seat in the car, you could tell by her crossed arms and occasional pout she had not forgiven you for your betrayal. Cove hadn't been pleased about how he had to sit in the middle, but his mood lifted as you sat next to him. Did you say you came in second? That's some good going.
No.
No, it's not. She levied another glare at you over her shoulder. Sure. Striving to improve is good too. I was winning in our game. Hardly. I was about to beat you. Hide and seek with just you two? That doesn't even count as winning.
Why?
Why not? It's not special. There are no judges or prizes. You eyed the seat as she fought so hard to win. It wasn't much of a prize either. Dad? Yes? You could see Cove's dad's eyes in the rearview mirror, suddenly attentive at his son's call. We need a prize. As a matter of fact. Mr. Holden focused intently on the road ahead of him as a suitable reward to please Cove might appear before him. That's right, Cove, we need prizes. Right, the big thing on the flyer was a chance to get a free pizza coupon, wasn't it? How about I call out for a take-up place and we can have pizza at home for dinner? Lizzie huffed, pulling her arms closer to her chest. Great, now only Cove gets anything good. Hey there, I'll ask your moms if it's alright if you kids have some. Thanks, Cove's dad.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Holden. Yeah, thanks, Dad. You're welcome. I do what I can. But you should really have stuck with the group. The quiz would have been fun. That was the plan when I dropped you off. We stayed together and didn't leave the library. I'm glad for that, I am. There's a lot of trouble you can get into even if you do have a buddy along for the ride. Just be careful next time. I worry about you, and I bet Blue's parents wouldn't want her to run off unexpectedly either, okay, son? We're in a library. I don't really think that there was a problem with this.
Okay.
That's my boy. Now, enough gruff from your old man. Let's decide what kind of toppings we're getting. Pepperoni! Sounds good. Anything else? As the conversation continued from there, with debates on what was best to put on a pizza for the rest of the drive, Mr. Holden wanted anchovies, and the other three kids in the car had to band together to explain how gross they were. The way Cove's dad laughed up in the front seat made you wonder if he was doing it on purpose. You had a fun day already, but closing it out with the promise of free pizza after all, and more time to hang out with Cove made it even sweeter. You were glad you decided not to do the quiz this time. You were already getting curious about how things would play out next year. And look at that! We get more! Alright, we're gonna go and do Grown Up, because this has only been 13 minutes. Let's see, it was just that the sleepover was apparently a really long one. But let's do Grown Up, and we'll end it after that. One sweltering summer day, you were in your living room with Cove, listening to the sounds of birds chattering outside the window while you lay across the rug on the floor. Cove's dad had dropped him off earlier, and your moms had left the two of you along with Lizzie to play amongst yourselves. It had been too hot to go outside. The trouble finding something fun to do. The beach and the playground were off limits. You felt that it was too warm for anything like playing with your fuzzy toy animals. Then suddenly a light came to Lizzie's big brown eyes and her smile spread wide across her face. Why you smiling, Lizzie? What you thinking? What you doing? Having an idea gave her a new wave of energy. Since we're stuck inside, we should be adults. They don't play outdoors anyway. They're always inside telling everybody they're too busy to play.
Why?
Why? Yeah, why? Why we gotta be adults, Lizzie?
Duh.
I said why, and it'll be fun, duh. What do they do inside that we don't, besides use the phone a lot? Excluding a small huff, Lizzie decides to ignore Cove.
What do you think?
Do you want to do it? I bet we could come up with something else. But that's what I'm gonna do, and it's not fun when I play pretend adults all by myself. Do you do that a lot? What's it to you? Looking at Lizzie, it seemed Cove felt he could understand where she was coming from, and he sighed. Do you really not want to play, Blue? It was clear he wanted some way out, but still felt guilty about it. I hope this is as fun as you're promising it'll be. Lizzie looked at you dead serious. It's the most exciting idea I've had all week. Satisfied that neither of you were about to bail on her, Lizzie thought over her options while you watched. After a few seconds, she clapped her hands together and beamed, apparently having settled on something without asking either of you. Thanks, sis!
Okay.
I'm gonna be a professional golfer. Blue, you and Cove can be a beach volleyball player, a gymnast, or a tennis player. Why can't we pick anything we want? Because I have a fun idea, that's why. What's your fun idea if I apparently can't pick my own job, but you can pick your job? Excuse me. That doesn't sound fun. And we have to play sports as adults? Yep. But there are other kinds of sports too.
Right?
It isn't the same. What do you think, Blue? Don't those choices sound super cool? You want to be that, huh? Is there anything else we can be? Please? Lizzie stomped a foot on the ground. Nope, come on, just decide already. Knowing Lizzie wouldn't let this go anytime soon, you sighed. Cove was not impressed with Lizzie's attitude, though he didn't bother talking more about it for now. You thought over the list of possibilities: beach volleyball, gymnastics, or tennis. Out of all of them, you prefer to play beach volleyball. You couldn't spend the afternoon on the beach for real, then you might as well pretend you were there. You could even wear your swimsuit to make it more realistic, although Lizzie probably wouldn't let you run off and do that now that she had you here. Yes, that was clearly the top option. Okay, I'm gonna be a volleyball player.
All right.
How about you, Cove? I'll be a volleyball player with Blue. Look how cute he is! Cove is being adorable. Lizzie threw her hands in the air, making an annoyed sound. You guys can't be the same thing. That's not how that works. You didn't say that. The rule was picking from the list. You can keep adding more. Lizzie looked at the two of you, then shook her head, resigned to losing this battle, but not the war. Fine, you're both volleyball players, but you're on the same team because there's only one. Lizzie's ponytail bobbed when she proudly stretched her arms wide. The Olympic team! What? We're Olympic athletes who just competed in the Olympics. Cove didn't seem all that impressed with the announcement. He made a face and adjusted his glasses on his nose. That's really specific.
Rude.
That's what makes it fun. Anyways, Lizzie marched back to the front, back and forth in front of us, getting lost in her own imagination. I won all the gold medals and people are calling me the next Mickey Wright. Who's that? Lizzie stopped on the spot and turned on him, her brown eyes shining with impatience. It doesn't matter if you know who she is. It's a golf thing. You guys won medals too. Your team placed silver. It's more real if we're not all first place. Hey, we can do better than silver. You can't be making the choices on our fantasy world. You pouted at Lizzie, unhappy with the decision. Blue's right.
Sorry.
Lots of people lose the Olympics. Them's the breaks. Then you're the one who did, not me. Lizzie looked taken aback by Cove's declaration, as though the thought of her losing was completely absurd. No way! It wouldn't make sense. I'm already practicing my golf game. She took a golfing stance to make her point, pretending to swing her club and hit an invisible ball. So what kind of house do you want to live in? Cove hadn't changed his mind about winning, but thinking about where he'd live as an adult appealed to him, apparently because he looked back at Lizzie with some anger fading. I'm gonna live on the beach. Lizzie made a face at him, poking out her tongue. That's kind of boring. We already have that. No, not like a normal house here with a street on it, right on the sand by the water. Just like that, all the tension was back. You hadn't even had a chance to choose where you would want to live. That's not very fun or smart, Cove. You can't live on a bunch of sand and shells. But I want to, and I will. Cove narrowed his eyes at Lizzie, even though she stood half a head taller than him. You didn't give us a list of things to pick out from this time, so I'm picking that. Ah! Why are we even playing pretend if we can't imagine anything?
Jeez.
Well, jeez! I'm gonna live in a mansion, far away from here and far away from you. One with an indoor pool and a place to practice my award-winning golfing!
It's not
How come
fair.
you were yelling about mine when your idea is even more impossible? Lizzie's face flushed red, her hands balling into fists at her side. It's not impossible, it's better than yours! Disagreements always seemed to crop up when the two of them were together, and you always felt like you were stuck in the middle. But when it came to the topic at hand, you thought... Cove was right. Cove's idea is good. You shouldn't say yours is the only right one. No one asked for your opinion. Wow, sis! Somehow, you agreeing with him made Cove look nervous. He tried to ignore it by continuing his debate with Lizzie. You can swim where you want if you live on the beach. We can still swim anytime we want from where we live now. Being a little closer doesn't mean anything. Says you. The two of them scowled at each other. You're being unreasonable, you... I don't get what you want. This game doesn't make any sense.
Ugh.
It does! You have to be realistic. I said that. But you're not. You had no idea what to do to make them stop at this point. It seemed like the two of them would just keep working each other up as long as they could. Nothing you said so far kept them from being mad. Thankfully, like a greeting card angel, Mom walked into the room. Lizzie rushed over to her, hanging on to the hem of her shirt and poking out her tongue at Cove. Lizzie, Blue, it's time to get ready to go.
You alright with that?
Sorry you have to leave already, Cove. Their mommy said she'll walk you home if you want, so you won't be left in the cold. Cove was still glaring at Lizzie, his face flushed red with anger. I can go by myself. But...
Bye.
Bye, Blue. There was still a harsh edge to the brief farewell, but you knew it wasn't you he was mad at. Without giving Mom a chance to stop him, Cove stood up and stalked out of the room, shoulders drawn tight.
Huh?
Okay? Worried Mom looked down at you and Lizzie. You two were playing nice with our new friend, weren't you? I'm telling the truth, goddammit, Lizzie! We were playing pretend and things got intense. They were like cats and dogs! Your sister's jaw dropped, looking betrayed as Mom put both hands on her hips. Elizabeth! I told you to be kind to him. He's having a hard time right now. Lizzie's mouth closed back up, replaced by a tiny frown. I know, I tried, but he was...
That's
No
enough.
buts. We both know you can show someone a great time when you put your mind to it. We're going to apologize to Cove and his dad over the phone when he gets home from work tonight. Lizzie hung her head, dragging a foot across the ground in front of her. Okay, Mom. Good girl. You caught pieces of Lizzie sulking to herself about how it was his fault too, but it was over. Ah, right, we better get a move on.
Let's go.
Let's go, kids. Nolani, where'd you leave the car keys? Mom hustled you all out the door, and you noticed during the car ride to golf practice that Lizzie was quieter than usual. She was usually the first one to request what music to listen to in the car, but she didn't say a thing. Your parents noticed she wasn't in a mood to be bothered. They gave her space. Mommy just asked you what you'd like to listen to. You were happy to see it brightened her up right away. She started singing along with you. Soon enough, her bad mood was a thing of the past. When the car ride was over, you spent the twilight hours watching Lizzie hit things with other girls her age. You didn't know much about golf, but you could tell she really liked it, so you sat with your moms and tried to puzzle it out. It was nice sitting outside after being cooped up in the house all day. You stretched out your legs and let the last few minutes of sun warm your skin. When the sun was finally out of sight, dipping behind the horizon, you all got ready to leave. Instead of going straight home, your moms took the family out to dinner. You went to a restaurant you had been going to ever since you could remember. The whole afternoon had been a bunch of shouting, but you hadn't been able to stop, but you could kind of tell this all helped Lizzie be less angry. The car ride home was quiet, with only the radio providing an escape from the silence. Lizzie had been in better spirits now, but the closer you got to your neighborhood, the more she wiggled in her seat and frowned out the window. She knew what was coming, and when you all got back home. Clearly, she was dreading it. You were the one who was picking fights, honey. You were picking fights. I'm just the tattletale. And guess what? I don't mind tattletaling on you when you're picking on my love interest. Soon enough, Mom was turning onto your street, then reversing into the driveway. Once she cut the ignition, it was dead silent. No one spoke, only unbuckled their seatbelts and opened their doors. Lizzie was the last one out. Once everyone was inside and done taking off their shoes, she propped her hands on her hips.
So,
Now then, Mr. Holden's car's in the driveway, so he should be back from work. That's good news, isn't it, Elizabeth? You and Cove can hash things out before the day is done. Lizzie didn't complain or put up a fight. Her head ducked so she didn't have to meet anyone's eyes. She nodded once. Good, let's move this to the kitchen. Mom went over to the house phone, the rest of you following behind her. Mommy put a gentle hand on Lizzie's shoulder as they walked side by side. You watched them from the back. This was only happening because you had told on Lizzie. It's happening because she could not be agreeable to a guest. Like, God, it was her way or the highway. Both of them are at fault here. I'm somewhat at fault because I also agreed with Cove, but both of them are at fault. I'm not saying that she shouldn't be feeling this, and I'm not saying I'm in the wrong for tattling on her, because I'm not. She so should have picked a better way of going about that. Also, she's older. She really shouldn't have been acting like that. But we're children. I'm okay with it. You frowned to yourself, recalling how Cove had left in such a bad way. You wished that you could have done more for him. Hopefully he would feel better by tomorrow. You wanted to hang out with him again. The four of you stood around the kitchen in a lopsided square. All eyes were on Lizzie, who kept her gaze on her feet. You remember the number for Cove's house, don't you, honey? Lizzie jerked her head in another nod, sullen. Without further prompting, she stepped forward and began to dial. Mom reached over and pressed a button on the base. Suddenly, you could hear the phone ringing. She turned on the speaker. The phone rang a couple times, then stopped. Mr. Holden's warm voice came through the other end. Evening, Holden residence. Lizzie looked over at Mommy, unsure. She nodded encouragingly. Hi, Mr. Holden. It's, Lizzie. Can I talk to Cove?
Absolutely.
Lizzie Flame? What a surprise. But of course you can say hey to the boy. He sounded cheery as usual, but definitely meant it when he said it was a surprise. You thought hard. You were sure your sister had never called Cove's house before. Mom spoke up before Mr. Holden or Lizzie could say anything more. Her arms were crossed over her chest, her lips pursed. Hi, Cliff, Nolani, Blue, and I are here too. Good evening. We're sorry to bother you so late. Hi, Mr. Holden. The gang's all there, huh? Is something the matter? His voice grew a bit concerned. Mommy was quick to reassure him. No, well, yes, but it's gonna be okay. Lizzie and Cove got into a bit of a fight today. We were hoping the two of them could talk and make up. Is this a good time for you and Cove?
What?
A fight? Cove didn't tell me anything about it when I came home. It does explain the funk he's been in tonight. He chuckled lightly. Despite that, it didn't seem like he really thought it was funny. Anyway, it's good. You didn't catch us at a bad time. I'll go grab him for you. There was a bit of shuffling on the other end. He must not have gone far because you could still hear him calling out. Cove, there's someone on the phone for you. After a beat of silence, there was more muffled talking from Cove's dad. Come on, bud. Lizzie just called so she could talk to you.
Are you
Blue's on the other end listening too. Don't you want to say hi? I know. He's my boy. So he's willing to deal with my sister for me. I like that. Eventually, Cove took the phone from his dad.
Hi.
Hey, it's Lizzie. Yeah, I know. Dad told me. Cove's tone was defensive. Lizzie turned to Mom, scowling. One stern look from her, though, and Lizzie turned away.
Sorry.
I just called to say I'm sorry for not playing nice with you today. I won't do it again. Lizzie's eyes were downcast, her voice low. You could tell she felt uncomfortable apologizing to Cove in front of everyone. She was still being genuine about feeling bad. Cove must have realized that too because he sighed quietly. Me and Blue should get gold too. That's right, Lizzie had kept denying you two what you deserved! What we deserved, god darn it! Lizzie was momentarily stunned silent by the demand. She probably forgot that it had even happened already. All right, we all win the gold. Okay, I guess I'm sorry too. A sense of relief washed over everyone at his acceptance of the apology. Mom uncrossed her arms while Mommy's shoulders relaxed, Lizzie's eyebrows raised up. You wondered if she thought he'd refuse her apology. Dad, can I get off the phone now? You couldn't see him, but it was obvious that Cove felt awkward about the situation. He had come off uncomfortable the entire time, really. Yeah, you can go back to your room if you want. Be sure to say goodbye first, though. Bye, Lizzie. Bye.
Bye.
Bye, Blue. You perked up at the mention of your name. You smiled even if he couldn't see it. Bye, Cove! With that said, Cove must have handed the phone to his dad and left since Mr. Holden spoke up.
That's a relief.
All's well that ends well, they say. Thanks for arranging this. I'm sure he appreciates it. As Mom replied, Lizzie tugged on Mommy's hand to catch her attention. Can I go now?
Good job.
Sure, sweetie. Thank you so much for apologizing to Cove. Mom flashed a brief smile at Lizzie and nodded in her agreement. Given permission to leave, Lizzie scurried towards the stairs. She seemed to be feeling much better after the incident behind her. Mom and Mommy returned to the phone. Taking it off speaker, they continued talking to Mr. Holden. You couldn't tell what about. You were glad that was the end of it all. Lizzie and Cove might not get along, and probably still won't, but they weren't mad at each other anymore. Mom and Mommy weren't upset either. Everything was fine, finally back to normal. With that thought, you retreated to your own room with a spring in your step. And that is gonna be where we end this episode of Our Life Beginning and Always. Thank you so much for joining me as we continue our journey through Step 1 Cove's life. We got a couple more moments to get through. We got 5 more. Hopefully. We could do that in probably another 2, possibly 3 episodes. I might do like the last one with the final section of 1, depending on how long it is. But hopefully we get through that. And once again, thank you for joining me. I will catch you all on the flip side. And bye, guys.